What about life for you now? We see in the book that you leave Cape Town, you go off to London and New York.
Yes.
Why don't you introduce us to that life away from your mother?
Yes, so there was, when I call the book Divided Lives, I mean this in several senses. There was the geographical divide of migration, and I wasn't unusual. I came to UCT in 1960, the year, of the that shooting of people who were protesting against apartheid. And it was actually commonplace for people of my generation to feel they didn't want to live under apartheid and to leave. Yeah. And I left as quite a young student, and I went and studied American literature at Columbia University in New York. So there was that geographical divide, there was the divide of the generations, but actually I was taking increasingly a different way from my mother. And Columbia was the scene of the first meeting of women's liberation in 1970. I went to that meeting. It was unbelievably crowded and furious. I mean, I know there's a new wave of feminism now, and women are very aware of violence against women, of sexual abuse of women, and it's rife in this country and it's everywhere. But I don't know if rage is as vehement as I heard it in New York at that meeting run by Kate Millett in 1970, because I remember going and realizing that a lot of women felt as I did, that we wanted equal rights, equal pay. We wanted men to have a different attitude to women. We wanted careers. There was a feeling at that meeting of hatred of men. I'd never seen anything so raw and so simple, because I don't think all men are hateful. But
what was it like to experience that?
Well, it was actually, there was a university-wide uprising. I mean, lots of universities in America were having uprisings in '68, and in Paris, and even in Oxford, against what was called then the military-industrial complex. That was, and people wanted to opt out. That was the language of the time. You wanted to be right, and because I'd always felt in a way an outsider from the time I was my mother's sister, it was easy for me to feel one wants to get rid of that greedy, bullying, fighting male society. And it was the time of the Vietnam War, and my male fellow students were against the draft. Chaps were drafted. So there was an uprising. And there was also an uprising, particularly at my university, Columbia, because it's in the middle of Harlem. And the university was elitist. It was for people who could pay. It was for people who had won their way through. And it had nothing to do with the black community around it. So there was that protest as well.